At the beginning of the story, inside a dark prison, a man is seen sitting whose name is Lee. In front of him is a piece of paper and he is very carefully preparing a fake stamp with his own hands. This Lee is not an ordinary prisoner but rather he is a very skilled artist. He wants to send a letter to someone from inside the prison. But the problem is that to send the letter, he has to give $10 to the prison's postman and Lee does not even have 1 Indian rupee. That is why he uses his unbelievable skill and makes a fake stamp with his own hands. And this stamp is so perfect that no one, even if they wanted to, could tell the difference between the real and the fake. After this, when the postman comes, Lee wants to give him the letter, but the postman demands $10. Right at that moment, an old prisoner in the cell in front suddenly starts pretending to be sick and begins shouting. Because of this, the postman's attention gets diverted, and Lee takes advantage of this opportunity and quietly puts his letter into his bag. Now who he is sending this letter to and why he is sending it, we will find out at the end of the movie. Meanwhile, after some time, the police come and take Lee out of the prison. Here we learn that Lee was locked up in a prison in Thailand for so many days, and now Inspector Ho of the Hong Kong police has brought him into his custody. Inspector Ho makes him sit in the interrogation room and starts reading out all the charges against him one by one. The first accusation is making fake notes. Besides that, 2 years ago on a highway in Canada, he attacked a central bank vehicle where about 7 guards lost their lives. Not only that, after this there were many more attacks in the city. The police suspect that behind all this is an international gang and Lee is directly accused of being involved in all these incidents. But Lee, as always, denies all the allegations. He keeps repeating one thing again and again, that the mastermind of all this is a very big mafia named Painter. However, what is Painter's real name or where he can be found? He cannot give any information about that. Even today, in front of Inspector Ho, no useful information comes out of his mouth about Painter, but on his face there is immense fear visible. He says crying that Painter will find him and kill him. That is why he should be sent back to prison as soon as possible. After this, the police collect his blood and hair samples and match them with the DNA found at the crime scene, and in the results, every single sample completely matches with Lee. This means that his crime has now become as clear as daylight. The police again keep pressuring him to confess the truth, but like every time, this time too Lee refuses to admit anything. Right at this time, outside the police station, a girl named Yuvin was waiting. She has brought her lawyer so that Lee can get bail, but the police clearly refuse her, saying that Lee is a very important witness in many big cases. That is why his bail will not be possible under any circumstances. However, the police put forward a condition. If Lee tells the real identity of Painter, only then his bail will be considered. Then Yuvin herself goes to Lee and requests him to tell everything truthfully, and Lee opens his mouth right at that moment and starts telling the events of the past. Now the scene cuts and goes back to several years ago. Here we see Lee and Yuvin for the first time. They both were artists and both used to make very beautiful paintings.
Through art, they slowly come closer to each other and they fall in love. But there was a big difference between the two of them. Yuvin was a creative artist who used to make original paintings in her unique style, while Lee did not do any original work. He would just copy the paintings of famous artists exactly. His ability to copy was truly unbelievable. But the problem was that no one had any interest in these duplicate paintings. Now this same ability to copy would later lead him onto a dangerous path. One day, an art gallery owner named Luck comes to see their paintings. He gets impressed seeing Yuvin's work and wants to buy all the paintings. But he does not like Lee's paintings at all because they were copies of others' work. Luck refuses to keep them in his exhibition. Then Yuvin insists that either he will have to buy all the paintings together, otherwise she will not sell even a single one. After Luck leaves, Lee tells Yuvin, "Do not worry about me. All my paintings have already been bought by a man from Tokyo." But after some time, Yuvin realizes that Lee is lying. Not a single one of his paintings was sold. In reality, Lee did not want his career to come in the way of Yuvin's. Anyway, on the day of the exhibition, Yuvin secretly places one of Lee's paintings next to hers. Everyone was praising the work. Then a man comes and starts making fun of Lee's painting. Seeing his behavior, Yuvin gets so angry that she throws water on him. However, after the exhibition ends, Lee himself goes and apologizes to that man. Then that man says laughingly that he was just joking so that Lee would come to meet him in private because the painting he bought from the entire exhibition was Lee's. After this, they sit in a restaurant and talk for a long time. That man introduces himself as Painter. Yes, this is the same Painter whose name Lee kept telling the police again and again. Painter praises Lee and says that copying any picture like this is no small thing. He directly offers that your talent will be very useful to me. The next day, Lee meets Painter and says that he is ready to accept any offer of his. Painter laughs and welcomes him to his team. But when Lee hears what work he will have to do, the ground slips from under his feet. Painter hands him a dollar note and says that you have to prepare this note exactly. This means that he is directly offering Lee to make fake notes. Lee gets furious immediately and rejects his proposal. Then Painter tells him that his real name is Seng. For the last 3 generations, they have been in the business of printing fake notes. But till date no one has had to go to jail because he does all this work very carefully. Now the question is whether Lee finally agrees to this dangerous offer. Painter then tries to convince Lee that the pattern of pictures and letters present in this new printed dollar is so complicated that even expensive high-quality printers cannot print it properly. That is why Lee's unbelievable hand skill will be needed here, and after seeing Lee's work, Painter wants to convince him for this offer. Lee first refuses, but after thinking about his poor financial condition, he finally agrees. At that time, Yuvin was going to America for an exhibition. That is why Lee quietly leaves from there without telling her anything. Meanwhile, Painter takes him to Canada by plane. There he introduces Lee to his entire team. In this team, there are some masters who have 20 years of experience in making fake notes. Everyone is an expert in one or the other work. They all sit together to prepare a big plan for making fake notes. Here we understand that copying American dollars is no child's play. On every US dollar, there is a photo of Benjamin Franklin, and this photo is made through many fine layers. On Franklin's collar, in small letters, United States of America, is written. Now in the new notes, the American government has added many more security layers. Because of which, without fine painting or advanced print, copying this note is absolutely impossible. Not only that, a special ink has been used in the notes which appears purple from one side and golden from the other side. This thing is called the Moire effect. That is, the ink has a color-changing effect. This means that to make this note, they will have to arrange both the real paper and this special ink. Now Painter's entire team starts thinking about solutions to these problems. The biggest challenge was the work of putting the watermark. For this, they plan to paint on 3 different layers by following the technique of old Chinese artists. On the middle layer, the watermark will be set very finely. And Lee will have to complete this entire work with his own hands. Now before starting the main work, Lee prepares some practice notes. He draws the note so perfectly that all the people in the team are completely amazed seeing his work. Similarly, after practicing for a few days, they suddenly move to Eastern Europe. There, an old banknote printing machine was being sold at an auction, and they buy it. Now the question arises, where will the paper like real banknotes come from? Then Painter gives an amazing piece of information. He tells that the same quality of paper that the USA government uses to print notes, they also prepare telephone directories from that same quality of paper. Hearing this, they go to the printing press of that directory and directly buy 500 tons of paper from the owner. Now, with these papers, the work of printing fake notes according to Lee's design begins. In that huge machine bought from the auction, note after note starts getting printed. And these notes look exactly like real notes. But one big problem was still remaining, and that was the color-changing Moire effect. The special ink needed for this is only available with government offices, and to obtain this ink, Painter makes a terrifying plan. Anyway, Painter along with his team directly attacks a central bank vehicle. In that vehicle, there were many barrels of that color-changing ink, and Painter had come to loot them. Now, unwillingly, Lee also has to go with him for this work. During the attempt to snatch the vehicle, the guards start firing bullets, and in response, Painter's gang also retaliates. In the midst of this fierce gunfire, poor Lee gets badly trapped. Then suddenly a guard points a gun at Lee. But right at that moment, Painter comes and shoots that guard dead. After this, Painter throws a bomb and blows up a distant vehicle, because of which the other guards are also killed. Then they loot the ink barrels and quickly flee from there. But amidst all this, seeing Painter's violent form for the first time, Lee's soul trembles inside him. Until now, he was making fake notes out of fear, but he had never thought that he would have to be involved in bloodshed as well. But now he was stuck in such a quagmire from which there was no way out. Meanwhile, after bringing the Moire effect ink, they put it in the printer and start printing notes again. And now the notes that come out each have the same color-changing effect as a real note. Seeing this sight, the entire team starts jumping with joy because they had made something that was impossible to distinguish from a real note. But Lee was feeling very guilty inside. He asks Painter that when this ink runs out, will they have to kill people again to bring ink? It would be better if I try to make this ink myself. But Painter, hearing his words, strongly scolds him and silences him. Now, on Painter's orders, his people start smuggling fake notes filled in suitcases to different countries. In this way, their empire of fake notes keeps growing day by day, but the police have already got wind of their activities. An undercover police officer named Wing is given the responsibility of investigating this case. This Wing, along with Inspector Ho, starts following the movements of Painter's gang. Then, disguising themselves as a buyer, they go directly to meet the gang members. Here Painter's people were having a party on a boat in the middle of the sea. However, Painter and Lee were not present there. Wing observes everything from there and then leaves. But Painter's real game had not even started yet. Painter fixes a meeting with an old client of his named General. The next day, he takes Lee along and heads toward General's house. On the way, Lee tells Painter an important thing. He says that he knows about a special kind of carpenter, with which the moire effect can be created. This means that with this ink, the effect of two colors from two different angles can be brought on the dollar bill, and for this, no one will have to be killed. Hearing this idea, Painter becomes very happy and promises that he will buy a resort in Lee's name, where he can spend the rest of his life comfortably with Yuvin. But then suddenly, Painter hands a bomb remote to Lee and says that you have to press this button only on my signal. Meanwhile, after reaching General's house, the meeting starts normally. General offers Painter to buy fake notes at a good price and says, "Shift here with your entire gang for 6 months and teach my people also to make perfect fake notes like yours." Then General says laughing that if your father were alive, they would have immediately agreed to this deal. Hearing this, Painter's facial expressions change in a terrifying way. He slowly gets up from the chair, goes to General, and whispers in his ear, "7 years ago, it was you who killed my father." Hearing this, General understands that Painter has come here not to do business but to take revenge. Painter opens his shirt and shows that his entire body is covered with bombs. Then he shouts and tells Lee to press the button on the remote. But Lee, trembling with fear, cannot even move his hand. When Painter shouts even louder, the remote falls from Lee's hand, and as it falls, its switch gets pressed. But the blast does not happen from the bombs tied to Painter's body because they were fake. In reality, the blast happens in Painter's car parked outside. I mean, what can I say, this man was wandering around with a whole bomb in his car. Due to the strong impact of the blast, many of General's men die right there. Others come running and start firing at Painter. But Painter, holding 2 pistols in both hands, fires bullets in such a stylish way that one after another people start falling to the ground. But this was just the beginning because General was also no ordinary player. But Painter had already made arrangements for this. His accomplice starts firing rocket launchers continuously from a distant forest. Due to the rocket launcher attacks, everything there blows up and the entire area is engulfed in flames. Amidst smoke and destruction all around, Painter takes 2 rifles and eliminates even more people. Then some more of his accomplices bring vehicles and start crushing General's men. Meanwhile, some of General's men enter the forest and eliminate the guy firing the rocket launcher. In the midst of all this, poor Lee is crouching in a corner trying to save his life. This gunfire continues for a long time. Finally, General himself comes in an armored car and starts firing directly at Painter. But Painter, in great style, jumps and fires at him, and by aiming at the right part of the car, flips the entire vehicle. In this way, he also finishes off General. But during this battle, a girl named Ching, who worked for General, her body catches fire. Lee runs and puts out that fire. But by then, her face had been badly burnt. On the way back, Painter takes her to the hospital and then, by blasting it, destroys General's entire hideout. About 1 month later, Ching slowly starts recovering from her injuries. Painter gives her a new ID and passport on which her name was written as Yuvin. Seeing this, Lee gets very angry because Yuvin is his girlfriend's name. But Painter does not pay attention to his words. In this way, with a new identity, Ching joins Painter's gang and slowly starts getting attracted toward Lee. However, Lee does not give much importance to all these things. Meanwhile, one day they all go to see Yuvin's art show, where Painter tells Lee that he has arranged a resort for him. Now he can live his life in peace with Yuvin. But Lee sadly says, would Yuvin like to live in a resort bought by a criminal? Right then, they learn that Yuvin is going to marry Luck, the owner of that art gallery. In reality, Lee had not been in contact with Yuvin for a long time, because of which Yuvin did not wait for him anymore and entered into a relationship with Luck. After learning this news, Lee quietly comes out of the gallery and tells Painter that he and Ching now want to leave this gang. Painter gets furious and abuses him, saying that he can leave only after finishing the work of making the ink. Meanwhile, that undercover officer Wing, by changing his disguise, wants to meet Painter directly. But Painter already had suspicion in his mind. He investigates and finds out that a gang member of his named Uncle Yen has bought a watch, and to buy it, he used their own fake notes. Whereas Painter's gang has a strict rule that no one will buy anything with their own fake notes. This meant that Yen had broken the rules, and because of this mistake of his, the police came to know about their activities. That is why Painter wants to punish Yen. Yen falls at his feet and starts begging, pleading for the lives of his wife and daughter, because Painter has another terrifying rule. If someone makes a mistake, his family is also eliminated. But Painter does not pay attention to Yen's crying and whimpering and, with a cold mind, directly shoots him. Seeing this merciless murder, Lee cannot control himself. He immediately attacks Painter. But Painter fires a bullet past his ear and lands a hard punch on his face. Meanwhile, Wing again changes his disguise and comes to meet Painter. But Painter already knew all his plans. So during the conversation, he suddenly tells Lee to shoot Wing. But this time too, Lee cannot move from his place. Finally, Painter himself shoots Wing dead. After this, he gets even more furious at Lee and reveals something in front of him that sends a chill through Lee's entire body. Painter shows that he has Yuvin and her soon-to-be husband Luck as hostages at this moment. That is, this man had somehow kidnapped Yuvin and Luck, just to blackmail Lee. Painter tells Lee to directly shoot Luck. But Lee is absolutely not ready for this. Instead, he points his pistol at Painter. During this, due to the trigger being pressed, indiscriminate bullets are fired, in which Luck gets killed. After this, a tremendous gunfight starts between Painter and Lee. During this, Ching comes and starts eliminating Painter's men one after another. Finally, Lee shoots Painter directly in the chest and kills him too. Meanwhile, Lee wants to save Yuvin. But Ching, threatening to kill Yuvin, stops him. In reality, Ching had become quite attracted to Lee. That is why she did not want Yuvin to go to Lee under any circumstances. Lee has no other option left. So he is forced to leave Yuvin there and go away. After this, taking the bag of money, he goes to that same resort that Painter had bought for him. The next morning, Lee reads in the newspaper that the police have not found Painter's dead body. Then one thought comes to his mind that perhaps Painter is not dead and he will take revenge by killing Yuvin. That is why Lee quickly sets out to save Yuvin. But in the meantime, on the way, the police come and arrest him. That is, whatever happened after this, we saw at the beginning of the movie. The police put a condition in front of Lee that if he gives all the information about Painter, only then will he get bail, and that same Yuvin whom Lee had left and come away has come to save him because Lee had written a letter from jail apologizing to her. Remember at the beginning of the movie, the matter of sending a letter with a fake stamp, that letter was actually sent to this same Yuvin. Meanwhile, on Yuvin's advice, Lee tells the police everything from beginning to end truthfully about Painter. The police ask him to make a sketch of Painter, after which his bail is granted and the police take him to a hotel and leave him there. There, Lee apologizes to Yuvin and a romantic moment passes between them. Right at that moment, Inspector Ho sees a man wearing a police uniform whose face exactly matches the sketch of Painter that Lee had made. And the funny thing was that that man, wearing a police uniform, was himself going inside the police station. That is why, along with his team, he immediately arrests him. Everyone thinks that the country's most wanted criminal has finally been caught. But that man, shocked, shouts, "Since when did I become a criminal? I am just an ordinary police constable." When he shows his ID, Inspector Ho's face turns pale because now he realizes that Lee had been fooling them all this time. But believe me, the real truth is still left and it is so shocking that you will be stunned. Did you understand the matter till now? The terrifying Painter whose story was being told all this time, that Painter is actually none other than Lee himself. From designing fake notes to attacking the central bank vehicle and massacring General's hideout, he had done all of this alone. But to save himself, he very innocently created a fictional character named Painter in front of the police, and the face of the poor police constable whom he had seen on duty at the time of his arrest, he drew that same face as the sketch of Painter. Just imagine, throughout the entire movie, we thought that Lee was an innocent artist who was forcibly dragged into this crime. Whereas he himself was the real mastermind of this entire operation. Not only that, an even more terrifying truth is that after coming from China, Lee never even met Yuvin. The girl who came to the police station to save him and with whom he was in the hotel was actually not Yuvin. It was the same Ching whose plastic surgery Lee had done and given her Yuvin's face. Remember during that battle at General's hideout, Ching's face was burnt. Right after that, Lee got her made to look like Yuvin because he could never obtain the real Yuvin. That is why he kept Ching by making her into Yuvin. Now, after learning all this truth, Inspector Ho immediately runs toward the hotel. But by then, it was too late. After eliminating all the hotel guards, Lee and Ching had already escaped. Now both of them, sitting in a boat, were running far away from Hong Kong through the sea route. But then suddenly, Ching tells something that breaks Lee's heart. Ching tells him that she is deliberately turning the boat in circles, and before coming here, she had written the boat's number on a lighter so that the police could find them easily. Now what was the reason for this? Because Ching had realized that Lee would never love her. He only loves Yuvin, who exists in her face. That is, Ching also now wants to take revenge on Lee. Then Lee sees that the police have surrounded them from all sides. He wants to speed the boat away. But Ching had already hidden explosives in the boat. She presses the trigger and with a huge blast, the entire boat turns into a ball of fire. In the end, that fire consumes both of them. After Lee's death, Inspector Ho goes to the real Yuvin. He tells her that they have identified Painter. Now Yuvin did not even know that Lee himself was the real Painter, because at the time of the kidnapping, her eyes were blindfolded. When Inspector Ho shows her Lee's photo, she says, "Yes, I know this man. He used to be my neighbor." This means that there was never any relationship between Lee and Yuvin. His love was completely one-sided and he never even confessed his heart to Yuvin. He was so obsessed with her that he wanted to become an artist like Yuvin. But becoming an original artist like her was not in Lee's control. That is why he used his tremendous skill of copying and chose a wrong path. His plan was to earn a lot of money and one day stand in front of Yuvin with his head held high. But that dream of his was also ultimately reduced to ashes. And this is where the story ends.